So, hi everybody. This is Tina speaking with Katja about the combination of Sun in Cancer and an Aries North Node, Libra South Node.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi Tina.
So, any first thoughts about this one?
Well, so we're in these videos, we're going through the sign in its 3 stages and the in-between transitional stages and talking about how they relate to the nodal configuration that we're talking about. And Cancer's purpose is really to nurture what is most precious in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into the specifics of every stage. My first thoughts are, knowing the Cancer trajectory, there's a real sort of learning that happens around self and other.
Yeah, true.
And putting those principles really in their place in one's life, in their healthy place.
Yes.
What's the healthy place of self? What's the healthy place of self-care? And putting myself first, filling my own cup, etc. And then what's the healthy place of other and relating to other and nurturing other and giving.
Definitely.
And so from that perspective, the Aries Libra continuum is very relevant.
Yeah, cool.
Right. So that's sort of, and yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring with you how the Aries North Node would play out in every stage.
Yeah. Yeah. So in order to be able to nurture what is most precious in life, the first thing you have to do is develop the nurturing function. And of course, the best way to develop the nurturing function is by doing a lot of nurturing in a very hands-on, private, personal way. So first stage Cancerians are very devoted to family and to children. Now, I remember doing a lecture quite a few years ago, and there was a woman sitting at the end of the table, crossing her arms about cancer. She didn't want to look at my book. I'm not into sun signs because I'm a sun in Cancer, and I'm not into family at all. And it always talks about family and children and everything. So I said, well, here, read this. But Cancerians are not about that at all in certain stages. Anybody listening to this who feels that way, just wait. If you don't know anything too much about the sun in Cancer, it's not a feature of all the stages, but it is very much a feature in first stage.
Yes.
And so there's this absolute dedication to that. It's the choice of a mate has a tremendous amount to do with the family you want to create. It's the family is priority, and it doesn't matter what gender the person is. You can really learn to nurture just as well as a dad as you can as a mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think, and you can chime in on this, any insights you have to, Katja. I think in first stage Cancer, the Aries North Node would take the form of seeing oneself as the hero provider. And it's about becoming the most noble version of myself as the nurturer. It certainly would be about being a strong initiator in terms of creating that family, of directing that family. And Libra South Node would be about making sure that I have a supportive partner, because family is always a partnership situation, but the partner is secondary to the purpose. So North Node is pulling the person forward towards this purpose, which is to be the hero or heroine who is taking care of everything. And that doesn't mean that they would think of their partner as being inferior to them. But they certainly would think of partnership as being much less important than what the partnership is designed to accomplish, which is to create this family and nurture the family.
Yes. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
would definitely feel that any relationship that was superfluous to this purpose would be definitely something to avoid. It would be something to, and that's any form of relationship, whether it's, you know, people who would be seen as outsiders who have some kind of connection to someone in the family but are not supportive of the family. They would want to get away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because Aries really has their purpose, their goal, and they're going toward it. And relationships that don't support that goal have to be, they have to be removed. They
Yeah,
have to be moved away from.
yeah, yeah. Now, at a subtler level, there's a little bit of a shadow element coming in, because as a person goes more towards the third stage in Cancer and going further on into second, third stage, there is the facet of a partnership that isn't just about building family, but is about self-actualization.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it's a different need
Mm-hmm.
than the need for like a co-conspirator in looking after this family and these kids.
Yes.
So there could be that sense of, well, my temptation might be to get involved with somebody that's just going to fulfill my own personal needs, but you know, that pleasure need that doesn't have to do with the responsibilities that I'm going towards. So there's that tendency to want to try and avoid that. Now, what happens over time is that this Aries North node, as a person's moving more towards the end of first stage, it's going to start pulling the person towards third stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, I think an Aries North node, if for a Cancerian in first stage, might be a force that could help, could have a stronger tendency to encourage a person to crossroad.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, mm-hmm.
So a crossroading means moving straight from first stage to third stage. Because in every sign, first stage is this building process of building a certain specific response pattern to life, the foundation from which the purpose will be expressed. Then the foundation is shaken at the end of first stage, and usually things fall apart for second stage, and then the full purpose is expressing itself in third stage. So everyone has an opportunity in every sign to move from first stage straight to third stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why the Aries North Node would do that is because it would say, what about me and my personal development? Even the Libra South Node would say that too. I've disowned a piece of my personal needs.
Yes. To accommodate others.
Yeah, because as first stage progresses, the person is getting tired of sacrificing themselves for their family.
Yep.
But they love their family. Their family is the thing that means the most to them. There's not, they would never ever want to compromise that or harm that. It's still what they love more than anything else. And yet there's a part of them that's going, oh, when is there going to be time for me?
Yeah, is there going to be time for me?
I wish I could have my own life here, but they keep suppressing that.
Yes.
And what's going on is that at a higher self level, this nurturing capacity after 3 or 4 lifetimes, because we spend 3 or 4 lifetimes in each stage, it's been really well developed and really well honed, and it doesn't need to be practiced anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that higher self level is saying, well, you know, we can start to let this go. And what will happen if the person is sort of understandably suppressing their own personal needs is that eventually there's a buildup of pressure, and the family does come unglued somehow.
Yes.
Now, if this buildup of pressure starts occurring and there's stresses in the family, and the person can recognize that my own need for self-actualization, to develop my strengths, to develop my needs, to be curious about and really engaged in the outside world beyond the small family environment that I'm in, is completely and utterly valid.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to really develop a spiritual understanding of the motto of third stage, which is, you know, the world is my family. That's one of the mottos of third stage Cancer. Another motto is, my children can't be happy unless your children are happy. It's a greater social responsibility that third stage calls the person towards. And in order to fulfill that social responsibility, they have to develop themselves and their strengths and their talents and identity. So North Node in Aries, developing my identity, developing myself. It would really try to pull them towards third.
Yes.
So
that's how they could crossroad.
Yeah.
Right. And then there wouldn't be a need for second stage.
Right.
There would be a need for the family to blow up because they would be honoring that underlying message that keeps trying to come through of honor yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And develop yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So Aries North Node, extremely powerful for Cancer.
It is. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting too, because the nodes square the sun, and a square occurs when a sign is a quarter of the way through the zodiac from another sign, which means that if you put 4 squares in a chart, you get a big giant cross. Yeah. And you can actually join lines between these 4 planets and will make a big square. That's why it's called a square. And a square is an aspect that challenges and generates energy. Mm-hmm. So the nodes, which is the spiritual evolution of the person, is challenging and generating energy. Yeah. And that's probably one of the reasons why it can act as such a catalyst to encourage a person, if they're in first stage, to make that first, third stage transition. So if somebody watching this who's had a wonderful family and has dedicated their entire lifetime to family, and right now there's massive rumblings going on and tremendous upheaval, and you've always wondered, when is there going to be time for me? Mm-hmm. Don't think it's time to ignore that desire to develop yourself, because that is what's going to save everybody. It's going to save the situation, even if you don't know exactly how right now. Yeah. Yeah. So if a person, not everybody crossroads, and it doesn't mean you failed if a person doesn't crossroad, because we do gain depth from going through second stage in all the signs. Yeah. And if a person goes through the usual route of first, second to third stage, family does experience upheaval at the end of first stage. So it will do that in several different ways. And one is external events. So sometimes people's really wonderful, happy family is disturbed by large political events that are really tearing apart the fabric of a specific culture or part of a culture. Yeah. And literally you see family members actually getting separated by war and by these political events. That's the kind of thing that can happen at the end of first stage Cancer. Again, if a person crossroaded to third, they'd have access to the spiritual power, because a third stage Cancerian has a lot of spiritual power to allow spirit to come through them to preserve and protect whatever really matters in life. So they would be able to find the missing relatives. They'd be able to make sure that people are spiritually protected under this kind of strain. Mm-hmm. But if they weren't able to do that, again, it doesn't mean it's a failure, because every soul has its own path. And whatever every soul is going through, it's the choice of that individual from a deeper level to develop in a certain way. Yeah. Another way that family can go into upheaval is for conflict to occur between the two partners. Right. And one person can abandon the other person, and that pulls the family apart. Now with a Libra South Node, that's a possibility, because that there's some kind of lurking relationship issue potential that could create a challenge there. So it's a little more, a little more likely that might be a way for a first stage Cancer to move into second stage. Another way for the family to come into upheaval is for a troubled child or troubled children to be born into a family, which is, I had 2 Cancerians as clients, and they had a massively troubled child who really did just rip the family apart. And they kept on wondering, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? And the reality was they didn't do anything wrong. And to help them understand why this happened, why that came in, and society tells us that we're 100% responsible for how our children turn out. And it's a lie, because everybody comes in with a massive soul history behind them. Everybody is a completely unique individual. Everyone makes their own choices as they go along. And to put all the responsibility onto parents for how the children turn out is actually going to, at times, be a detriment to their ability to parent effectively, never mind the way they would beat themselves up if something seems to go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to understand that this was necessary right now, that this troubled person come into the situation, and everybody's evolution is getting sped up and catalyzed by what occurred.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
At any rate,
I've seen death, illness.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there could be the death of a partner. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a young Cancer who lost her mother early in life.
Yeah.
Her mother was also a Cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one of her mother was kind of at that end of first stage. Because one thing that's important to realize, and this is something I kind of automatically think of, but I don't really often describe it as clearly as I should. It's not possible to go through first, second stage transition cancer as a child, because the foundation of the experience is that it happened while the person is a parent.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're in the role of parent when this transition takes place. So your Cancerian client, probably that's more of a second stage experience for her.
Yes.
But the mother's experience might have actually been the end of first stage cancer. I failed my family, because that's how they feel no matter what happens. Because it's this instinctive feeling. I may be contradicting myself, but it's an instinctive feeling to feel responsible for what goes on with your children. This is why society should not push that idea.
Yes, we already have enough of it.
Yeah. It's distorted in a way, but it's a natural instinct.
Yes.
We want to do our utmost. We have that incredible unconditional love for our children. Most of us do. And
especially a Cancer. In first stage, right?
Yeah, so absolutely. It's their entire reason for existence. And so if they failed their family, as far as they can see it, and they're going to see, even if I couldn't save my children from this political upheaval that was going on, it still was my fault somehow. I should have somehow found a way. And if my mate abandoned the family, I should have somehow found a way.
Yes. And if that possible assignment to oneself. Yeah.
And also there's the memory that before this all happened, they were wishing for their freedom. And they don't forget that. Cancers don't forget things. They actually, when they get to third stage, they learn what to let go of. But a lot of them in first and second stage, they're not letting go of stuff.
Yes.
So there's this real feeling of, oh my God, I messed up. I was wishing for my freedom, and now I have my horrible, horrible freedom. And so they go into second stage with all this trauma and regret. And it's very, very painful.
Yes.
So a second stage cancer, again with that Libra South node, it's really pointing to that it was somehow partnership that was the Achilles heel in the situation. And that's where they're going to be really, really careful. And now they want to look after themselves. Also in second stage cancer, there is that struggle between two types of relationships that all second stage Cancerians go through, because there's this sense of relationship. A partnership creates a family. And that's the primary image that Cancerians have in their mind. And it's interesting because other signs like Libra or Taurus, that's not their most immediate go-to. Their most immediate go-to is the relationship is about the two of us. And then, there might be kids, there might not be kids. But with Cancer, relationship is the doorway to family. So some second stage Cancerians are really huge commitment phobes. Because even if consciously they don't want a family, they are afraid that it's going to lead to that kind of feeling of heavy obligation. Even if they don't have children, they still get into that feeling of, oh my God, I'm totally responsible here for the emotional situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
So a second stage Cancer with the North Node in Aries is going to be about me, 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 and it could really be an indication of commitment phobia, very definitely.
Mm.
The other type of relationship that becomes a stronger archetype as Cancer moves through second and really gets into second, third stage. In second, third stage, it becomes a more dominant archetype, is the concept of relationship as a vehicle for self-actualization.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really interesting because as we progress through second, third stage, the Libra South Node changes shape and it becomes a support to the Aries
Mm-hmm.
North Node.
Yeah.
But it's also always throughout second, third stage, a real defining things. Is this a relationship that's going to pull me under and make me feel obligated? Or is
Mm-hmm.
this a relationship that's going to support? Is the North Node getting pulled to the South Node, or is the South Node pulling up to the North Node and supporting the North Node? Is it a relationship that is nurturing my own personal development, what I want to do with my life, who I want to be, who I want to become?
Yes.
And certainly there's a tendency in second stage Cancer for the person to feel super responsible to family, and that's any kind of family. So it's very common for second stage Cancerian children to feel super responsible for their parents, to be afraid of losing a parent. This is so common. I've just talked to so many Cancerians who, my parents went away in the car for the afternoon, and all of them sitting at home hoping they don't die in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from that memory. The family got all blown apart before.
Yes.
And I don't want that to happen again.
So underneath that feeling of extreme responsibility for the parents, is there still that need to
Oh,
go and do it?
absolutely. Yes,
And,
yes.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of second, third stage Cancerians, it's a wonderful way to develop second, third stage cancer to be born into a Jewish family, or maybe an Italian family, or an Indian family, where there's all this family obligation.
Now you get the chance to navigate that one.
Exactly.
Accelerator.
You can't go take that course. You have to look after Uncle Sid.
Yes. Yes.
Or Auntie Maria needs you to spend the day with her today. You can't go to that concert.
Yes, it's your obligation. It's your duty.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So poor Cancers, and they really feel it. Like it's this instinctive thing, and it's really hard for them while they're in second, third stage to kind of parse it out. Well, what do I have a right to my own life? Or do I have to go and keep looking after everybody? And all these, it's very dysfunctional family situations that second stage Cancerians come into. It flips from first stage Cancer has these perfect kind of ideal family situations, and second stage Cancer, it's just a mess in one way or another.
Right.
And the poor Cancerian, because they feel so responsible for what happened when things blew apart, they feel responsible for everything, and everybody senses that, and they play on it.
And they're trying to hold this big mess together.
Mm-hmm. Which is impossible.
Which is impossible. And then others, assuming that they're also, in their own, not in the most perfected stage of their journey yet, could they manipulate that, or could they?
Most definitely. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that type of second stage Cancerian is a magnet for that kind of manipulation.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Because it's wonderful. If you've got someone around you who feels tremendous responsibility for the things you don't want to look after, well, gee, it's kind of a no-brainer. Oh, here, take care of this for me.
I've seen children also, like Cancer children, take on more responsibility.
Yes.
And kind of become, grown up before their time, where they even can miss their adolescence and not really, not really go out there and experience themselves, because they're feeling so responsible for taking care of everybody. And they're so sensitive that they're picking up on all the dynamics, right? They know who's in pain, they know who needs them. And, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, back in first stage, they had 6 children. So they had to be sensitive to what was going on with all 6 children and know who was in pain and who needed them. And the difference is, if your child has a fever, yes, you'll stay up all night and look after them. But if it's somebody's dysfunctional emotional pattern, a second stage cancer sometimes can't tell the difference because that person is expressing so much pain. And because we will tend to travel with people who are at a similar stage of development than we are, or just behind us, if we're in second, third stage, we're usually come into a lot of second stage people, second stage family. Those people are in denial and they don't want to take responsibility for their own issues or their own patterns. They're not willing to. So everybody, when they're in second, third stage, needs to pull away from dysfunctional relationships and dysfunctional patterns and not be manipulated by family. That's an issue that everyone deals with. But for cancer, it's magnified probably tenfold.
Yes. Absolutely. I've seen that. Yeah.
And then there'll be other types of second stage cancer who do really try to push all that away, and they live very much their own life, but they do feel guilty. And then they resent, they get very resentful about how they feel and that they shouldn't have to feel this way, but they still do. So they get kind of curmudgeonly and conscious about no, truly I do have a right to this, and I can still find a way to open my heart without letting everybody stomp all over it and pull at it and force me to be something I'm not.
Yep, putting those principles in their place, right?
Yeah. So the Libra South Node is always all about bad relating and accommodating people.
Yep. So that makes total sense for that first type of
it does.
cancer in second stage you were talking about, and that North Node would really pull at them. One of my favorite teachings about the North Node, or things that I've sort of come to experience in my own life, also, is that the North Node is not something that we learn. It's something that kind of comes from inside of us, because it's an urge, right? There's like and at some point it wakes up.
Yes.
Even if it's been dormant, and then when it wakes up, it can really start to, kind of be unrelenting.
Yes. And it really would be a beautiful catalyst for second, third stage cancer. It would help a tremendous amount.
Yes.
Because they need to know they've got a right to be themselves, and that people will come along behind them in the right way.
Yeah. Right. So when you were saying that the Libra becomes a support, then, then you're leading with that Aries, you're leading with that self-actualization piece. And then the Libra is always there as a support. Yeah. In its place.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, so throughout second, third stage cancer, the person is developing themselves and developing their strengths and their talents and their identity, spiritual perspective on life in their own way. It's really important for them to do it in their own way, in the way that feels right to them. Of course, that's true for everybody, but once again, it's much more true for Cancerians, because Cancerians are very sensitive to anything invasive. Because again, the trauma at the end of first stage felt like a big invasion of some sort. And so spirituality can feel like that to us. We don't want, cancers get protective in second stage. So it's about protecting this smaller, precious arena from any invading outside forces. It's a strong archetype for Cancer. And spirituality can be that force that is this massive, great unknown that blows apart our previous perceptions of life. So it can feel like a threat. So Cancers can resist that at a certain point in time, more than other people will, or in a very specific way.
They can resist the second, third stage?
Well, they can resist the spiritual development component of the second, third stage, yes. So that is why they need something that speaks to them emotionally. And usually something that's more nature-based for most Cancerians, not all, but they are more inclined to go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
and very, emotional and personal to them in some way. And then they can open that up.
Yes.
So even the spirituality should be mine, to take the Aries.
Yes.
It's my own unique path. And of course, as they get to third stage, they understand that everybody has a unique path. So there's no one right place, no one right way, but there usually is a one right way for an individual.
Right.
And so they can't be told what to do by someone else when it comes to their spiritual path either.
Yes, that makes sense.
And again, more so than most people, because most people, you shouldn't let someone push you around in that area of life anyway. But most people are more open to being taught than some Cancerians will not be like that, because they've got to get it from within.
And Aries North Node also has this component of trusting our impulses, right?
Yes.
Trusting what's coming from within. And so that can be so helpful for a second, third stage. Cancer, I imagine, right? Everything, they may have messages going on around them. You should go this way, you should go that way. And it's really only the inner voice and the inner impulse and following that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And at least in the beginning, from what I've seen, is that when people start to follow their Aries North Node, again, it can become insatiable. It can go in that direction. But at least in the very beginning, it's very healthy to start trusting the impulses, because they have the Libra South Node in place. They're always going to keep an eye out on others' needs. They're not as likely as other people to drop the ball in that area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit safer for them to just follow their own impulses and go in their own direction.
Yeah. And again, sometimes in second, third stage Cancer, the person has to suspend that need to look after other people's needs.
Yes, right.
Put that those pure instinctive impulses of their own positive future spiritual direction, put that first. And they discover they put that first, everything else works out.
Right.
Yeah, so eventually as the person gets into third stage Cancer, they do become involved in some kind of larger social responsibility of some sort. And so again, that ties into being that hero that a first stage Cancer person with a North Node in Aries would want to be. Third stage Cancer is going to be a collective hero.
Mm-hmm. So they're nurturing what is most precious in life on a larger level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So whether that's social, environmental, political, animals, it's something, we're doing something for the bigger world.
Yes.
That's going to make a massive difference. And then the Libra comes along, and Libra brings its concept of social justice. So we have the hero of social justice when the nodes are working together in third stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just to underline what you're saying there is that in third stage, you mentioned this in other videos too, but I think it's so key that in third stage, the nodes start to actually work together.
Yeah.
And the South node, rather than something that drags on us, becomes actually support.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you talk, Tina, a little bit about the sort of characteristic of third stage Cancer that has that positive detachment quality?
What would you describe? What do you mean by positive detachment?
Well, so throughout the journey, Cancer has learned that they need to look after themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They can't only put family first and put all their energies there, that there's a place for self, that there's a place for actualizing themselves, developing their talents. And that's the only way that they can actually serve and nurture on a larger level, right? On a social level. Right. Mm-hmm. And in that process, they sort of have to learn at some point, I almost think of hearkening back to what you were talking about with parenting, mm-hmm. that sort of learning that, you can look at your child even when they're, making mistakes or going, astray in some way, and just hold that detachment.
Yes.
course, you're loving them.
True.
You are holding the container for them. And at the same time, you're not being pulled into the
Yes.
over responsibility, right?
Yeah, the drama of it all. Yeah.
Drama
Yeah,
of
I
it.
mean, that is one facet of that a person learns as they go through the transition into third stage. They learn to let transformation take its course.
Yeah.
Because at the end of first stage, everything blowing apart, after that they've always been trying to prevent disaster.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's transformation can look like disaster. Death looks like disaster. A famous third stage Cancerian was or is, I'm not sure if she's in the physical plane anymore or not, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Oh,
Yeah,
fascinating woman. Oh, I love her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So for those who don't know, she did a lot of work with death and dying and pioneering how we see it, right? Transforming how we see death and approach.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's not this icky thing that we stay away from. We
Right.
need.
Yeah. And that is a key feature of second, third stage and third stage Cancer, is understanding that deaths and endings of all forms are transformations to a higher level of experience.
Yes.
To understand the sacredness in every facet of existence, in every facet of life. Because prior to that, Cancer is always trying to protect. And it's great to protect. I mean, there's another side to Cancerians in that they can invoke, a third stage Cancerian can really truly invoke a spiritual force that does defend and protect almost magically in situations that, the rational actions from our personality level can't succeed at. And so there's a sense of, what are the bigger, higher principles that we want to preserve and protect and encourage?
Yeah.
And being open to all the other changes and transformations of form on any level that are necessary to continuing the progress of life. That's a facet of that higher sense of detachment that, as you were describing it, that Cancer can get in third stage.
Yeah, it's almost like as you're talking, I imagine like they've opened their aperture.
Yeah.
In terms of what it means to know.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so as I mentioned at the end of a lot of these, not all of them, because we made them in different order, with the nodes, it's when we look at the house that we find the nodes in, or the houses, because some people have nodes on the cusp of two houses. The house that we find the south node in is where we're experiencing those challenges of the past, or the gifts of the past that we can bring forward when we're marrying the nodes. And the house or houses that we find the north node in are really houses of positive self-actualization that call to us, and we can open them up in a new positive direction. And they help anchor. I find the north node houses can anchor us towards positive future development. And they sort of feed our lives in a way.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, so then the next step is looking at, once we know where our nodes are, also looking at the house placement.
Yeah. If the time of birth is known, yeah.
Yes, yes, right. You need that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was fun talking about Cancer.
It was. That was a really good conversation.